Okay, it's April. Your taxes are due in just a few days. And let me guess, you're sitting there thinking, I still haven't gotten my W-2. What the hell am I supposed to do now? You've been checking your mailbox, refreshing your inbox, asking around. Maybe your old employer is ghosting you completely. Or they said, oh yeah, we sent it out weeks ago, but you never received a thing. And now you're in panic mode because the IRS deadline, April 15th, is breathing down your neck. Here's the kicker. Even though they dropped the ball, you could be the one who gets penalized if you don't file. And that's not just frustrating. It feels straight up unfair. According to the IRS, thousands of people each year face issues filing taxes because their employer didn't send their W-2 on time. Or at all, and in some cases, people end up making mistakes, delaying refunds, or triggering audits just because they didn't know their options. So the big question is, can you actually sue your employer for not giving you your W-2? Or better yet, what the heck are you supposed to do right now? We're going to get into all of it. What your rights are, what the law says your employer must do, the steps you can still take this week, and when legal action becomes a real possibility. Let's break it down. All right. So even though it's already April 4th, let's rewind for a sec. Under IRS rules, your employer is legally required to send you your W-2 by January 31st. That's not a guideline. It's federal law. They can mail it, hand it to you, or provide it electronically if you gave permission. But either way, by January 31st, it should have been sent or made available to you. So if you're listening to this in April and still haven't seen that form, yeah, that's a real problem. Now, before we get into lawsuits or legal consequences, here's what you need to do right now. Because tax day is around the corner. Step 1. If you haven't already, reach out to your employer one more time. Even if you're annoyed, send a polite message. An email is ideal, asking when the W-2 was sent and through what method. Mention that you need it urgently for tax filing. Sometimes it's a simple mistake, wrong address, payroll system glitch, or miscommunication. But other times, especially with small businesses or companies that shut down, there's no one left answering messages. That's when you escalate. Step 2. If it's after February 14th, which it is, you are totally allowed to call the IRS for help. Here's the number: 1-800-89-1040. That's the IRS helpline. When you call, make sure you have your name, address, and social security number, your employer's name, address, and phone number, your employment dates, and an estimate of how much you earned and what was withheld. Your last pay stub from last year is gold for this. Once you've reported the issue, the IRS will help you file using something called Form 4852. It's basically a substitute W-2. This is huge for anyone listening to this in early April, because Form 4852 lets you file your taxes on time, even if your employer never sends the real W-2. Now, just so you know, this is meant to be a backup, not the first option. If you file with estimated numbers using that form, and the IRS later finds out your real W-2 doesn't match, you might have to amend your return or deal with penalties, so you want to be as accurate as possible. All right, so what about suing? You're probably thinking, they messed this up. It's affecting me. Can I take them to court? So here's the deal. Yes, your employer is legally required to give you your W-2. And yes, there are penalties if they don't. But, and it's a big but, the IRS is the one that enforces those rules, not you as an individual. So you can't sue just for the delay unless there's something more serious going on. For example, if your employer is doing this on purpose to retaliate against you, or they're withholding the W-2 because you quit, or because you complained about something, that could open the door to a bigger legal issue like retaliation or wage theft. Or if they falsified information, gave you a fake W-2, or never reported your income at all. Now we're talking potential fraud. In those cases, legal action might be an option. But it's about more than just not getting a form. So, bottom line, just the act of not giving you a W-2 isn't usually enough to sue successfully. But if there's a bigger pattern, unpaid wages, misclassification, or illegal retaliation, then you need to speak to an employment lawyer in your state ASAP. Now, what if your employer disappeared? Seriously, this happens. Businesses go bankrupt, owners vanish, startups collapse. But here's the important part. Your right to get a W-2 doesn't go away. If the company is closed and no one's answering, call the IRS and use that substitute Form 4852. Again, try to use your final pay stub to get as close as possible with the numbers. Let's shift gears and talk about penalties. Because even if you can't sue, the IRS absolutely can punish your employer. As of 2025, the penalties for not sending W-2s on time range from $60 to $310 per form, depending on how late they are. If the IRS believes the employer intentionally disregarded the requirement, there's no maximum cap on those fines. Now keep in mind that money goes to the government, not to you. You don't personally get compensation just because the IRS penalized your boss. I know it's annoying, but that's how it works. So what should you do if you're listening to this on April 4th and still waiting on your W-2? Step 1. Call your employer. Again, politely demand a copy or ask if they can resend it electronically. Step 2. Call the IRS. Let them know what's going on and prepare to use Form 4852. Step 3. File on time. If you don't file by April 15th, you risk penalties and interest, even if the missing W-2 isn't your fault. So take control, get that substitute form if you need to, and get your taxes filed. Step 4. If you suspect retaliation or something shady, reach out to a labor attorney in your state. Don't wait. Let's wrap this up with a quick recap. Your employer had until January 31st to send you your W-2. If it's April 4th and you still don't have it, you need to act fast. Contact them. Call the IRS file with a substitute W-2 if necessary. And if you think this is part of something bigger, like wage theft or fraud, get legal advice. You can't afford to wait. The April 15th deadline is around the corner, and your refund or penalty is on the line. That's it for today's episode. Just a reminder, this is legal information, not legal advice. If you're dealing with something specific, talk to a licensed attorney who can help you directly. Thanks for tuning in to Legal Advice Podcast, where we break down the law without the legalese. Catch you in the next one.